Hi. So I'm Molly Turner. I direct public policy at Airbnb. I'm going to talk to you today about a phenomenon that's going on in thousands of cities throughout the world. And I want to talk about how those cities should respond to that phenomenon. So the title of this segment is actually perfect for me because the Airbnb community is literally providing capacity in these cities in a way that I would call do-it-yourself urbanism. So Airbnb hosts are local residents who are renting out the extra space in their homes to visitors. They're providing lodging capacity in cities like San Francisco this week, where all the hotel rooms are booked up. But they're also providing a new kind of capacity that wouldn't otherwise exist. Lodging in neighborhoods where there just aren't hotels. Lodging for grandparents who want to stay closer to their families. Even lodging for local residents who are between leases or want to move and try out a new neighborhood before they commit. Airbnb hosts are also accommodating an entirely new housing demand, which is actually their own. They're leveraging their greatest assets, the homes that they live in, and they're pioneering a new form of shareable housing in order to afford to stay in their homes. Until our new traditional institutions change, until housing construction keeps up with these new demands to create more affordable, flexible, shareable forms of housing, until hotels are built in neighborhoods where visitors actually want to stay, until then, Airbnb hosts and guests are going to make the existing infrastructure in the city work for their needs. And that's what I would call do-it-yourself urbanism. So where does the digital come in here? To be honest, I think that technology actually doesn't have a whole lot to do with what's going on. Technology did not create these new housing demands. You certainly don't need technology in order to open up your home to a visitor. Markey and Andreessen called Airbnb the third wave of the internet because it takes all of this online activity offline into the real world. But I actually see it a little bit differently. Technology is simply taking an age-old practice, opening up your home to visitors, and scaling it more safely and transparently than ever before. So the Airbnb website, our technology, is essentially just lowering the barrier to entry so that ordinary people can access these new opportunities. Essentially, they can do it themselves. Like other technological innovations that are going to be presented on stage at this summit, Airbnb's technology is simply just a really efficient response to demands that are not being met. It's because of this efficiency of the response that the extraordinary scale and growth of these kinds of activities runs up against existing regulations in cities throughout the world. So that's why I'm going to talk about 3 lessons that I think cities can learn from these do-it-yourself urbanism activities and how they should approach them. The first is keep an open mind. Almost never do cities actually understand what is actually going on here. For example, on Airbnb, they don't understand that people are not turning their homes into hotels. They're not renting out the typical vacation rentals that existed long before the internet. These are ordinary people who are renting out the extra space in their homes. Sometimes their kids even live there with them too, to visitors. The second lesson, understand exactly who those people are and why they're doing this. You know, just because it involves the use of technology does not mean that it's a bunch of gentrifying hipsters who are doing this. Really, this technology is democratizing access to new economic opportunities, to individuals who span the socioeconomic spectrum. These are individuals who are failed by today's existing institutions and who need to use these new models to stay afloat. The last lesson, and perhaps the most difficult, is to really investigate what are the concerns around these kinds of activities and what was the genesis of the regulatory constraints that arose to address those concerns. How did those regulations emerge? What were the social values that they were responding to? Are those values and concerns still valid today? Do they reasonably apply to the kinds of activities that are going on right now to someone who may happen to be renting their teepee or their tree house in their backyard to a visitor? So everybody in the audience today here, I would assume, understands that government can't afford to ignore these emerging behaviors. And they're emerging quickly. I mean, look at the hockey stick growth, the famous hockey stick growth of Airbnb here. What I'd like everyone here to leave with is to say, if your city wants to attract the kinds of innovators that are presenting on stage at this summit this week, the city government must innovate themselves. But government doesn't need to create all of these technologies. Really, government should innovate at what it's best at, and that's policy. Thank you.